ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah. Hey, yeah. Where my mom's at? Where my mom's wearing thongs, hitting bongs at? Raising kids, cleaning shits, need a long nap. Where my mom's at?
Where My Mom's At podcast with Christina P.
Meow, 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 meow. Katie Morton is joining me today. I haven't seen her in so long. But before that, let's do some dates. DC Improv, Washington, Dick, come July 15th and 16th, I'm there. And then I go to San Francisco at Cobb's Comedy Club, July 29th and 30th. One night only in Meat Rattle, Washington at the Neptune Theater. There's just a tiny, like a handful of tickets by the time this airs. I don't even know. Cleveland, Ohio, Hilarities, August 12th and 13th. August 26th and 27th, Minneapolis Tits at the Acme Comedy Club. One night only in Brooklyn at the Bell House, the night before Bauhaus, September 7th. I know you're all worrying about that. Nashville, Tennessee in October. I go to Jew Dork Titties at Caroline's in November, and the list goes on and on. I've also just added Dania Beach, which is Fort Lauderdale, I believe, and that'll be up on the board, ChristinaPOnline.com for tickets. Check out my special Mom Jeans if you haven't. I've also did a small spot on Amy Schumer's Parental Advisory on Netflix. Check it out. How about that? And also, I'm so excited. I'll talk about this at great length more. But, you know, everybody knows me from wear my red lipstick. I've worn red lipstick since I was 13 years old. It's my thing. Will you go to my website, Native? This is Katie Morton, by the way. Hi, Katie.
Oh, hi.
I'm like, when is this bitch going to talk to me? I know.
No, you're fine.
So
your lips are.
So Katie, I've been obsessed with red lipstick my whole life, and I've tried every brand under the sun, every shade. I'm a fucking expert.
You told me which one to purchase, and I purchased Stila's.
Don't you do that anymore? You know why?
Why?
Miss Christina P has developed her own lipstick. My perfect shade. I call it the perfect shade. I developed it with an atelier in Italy. I mean, this is like the best atelier. I think that's how I say it.
I think so.
Atelier. It's a makeup house is what they're called in Italy. And it is so beautiful. This product is hand done. The mix is gorgeous. It lays on the lip perfectly. It won't dry your lips out. There it is.
Oh.
Christina P's perfect red lipstick. This is the perfect shade and the perfect consistency. It's my brand. It is developed with me. So this is I Christina P approved. So whenever people ask me what are you wearing, what lipstick, get it on my website, ChristinaPOnline.com. Christina P's perfect red lipstick.
That's awesome.
Give it a minute to ship because it's coming from all the way from Europe. But yeah, I'm so stoked about this. It's so rad. It's such a good product. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, buddies.
Yeah.
So more importantly, Katie, thank you so much for being here. I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. I was trying to think of one. I mean, it's been a couple of months.
But it feels like an eternity.
It feels like a really long time.
Because we're always trying to get together. And then I'm like, my kids are sick. I was up all night. I can't. Everybody knows who's listened. I've had a horrible couple months. And I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
You too. So you've got 2 books, Are You Okay? And Traumatized. And you do a podcast called Ask Katie Anything. And if you don't know who this woman is, you need to know. She's on YouTube. She's on TikTok. She is a fountain of help for everybody that has any questions about mental health, about anything in the world. She's so accessible. She's not going to use terms you don't understand, which always made me so bummed out about, which is why I love you, is that you're very accessible and you break it down.
I try.
Yeah.
Do my best.
And so how do people ask you questions for Ask Katie Anything?
I gather them on the YouTube channel that my podcast is on. It's just if you just look up Ask Katie Anything on YouTube, it'll pop up, and go to the community tab. I ask on Sundays.
Oh, perfect. So then you read them yourself. She reads them herself. And then you decide which ones you're going to answer.
Yeah. I picked the ones with the most thumbs ups.
That's good to know. People are going to start campaigning to get their stuff. So what's the most common question people have?
I mean, there's a lot about like therapy itself. And I get a shitload of questions about like, I'm too attached to my therapist. Why?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Both. I guess it's funny because I just filmed a video. It hasn't gone out yet. It might by the time this airs, but about the words we use that are like bad things, like you're too attached, or you need too much attention, and I'm like, or you're overreacting, right? You're too sensitive.
Women hear that one a lot
all the time. Even as a kid, I heard all the time, you're too sensitive. Like, why are you so affected by this? And those are all good things in therapy because
what's up with your feelings, you stupid kid?
Why do you have so many fucking feelings?
Yeah, I swear my parents said that
Stuff
to me.
them down like the rest of us.
I promise you, my dad told me, you're so dramatic.
Yeah.
What are you crying about? You have nothing to cry about. And you're like, oh my God, this is exactly how you traumatize children.
Totally. And like make it difficult for us to express them later.
That's how you become a comedian or a therapist. It's people telling you not to feel stuff.
Totally. So we turn it into, what's it called? Sublimation, when you turn something bad into something useful.
It's such a long journey. Go ahead.
Oh, so anyways, all of those things like overreactions, oversensitivities, overly attached are all what I would call like good red flags, meaning it's an indicator that something else is going on. So as a therapist, then you're like, oh, I can explore that. Like, let's ask more about that. Let's understand that.
What does overly attached look like? Because I'm married, you're married. I have children. What does the overdoing of that look like?
I guess overly attached would mean like it's difficult for you to be apart from them. And if we're talking about a therapist, you're like wanting to call them in between sessions all the time and see them all the time. And with relationships, I think it'd be more that you're not okay being by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love being by myself. I love my husband and my dog, but I also like silence.
So do I. And I have to admit that as a mom, I felt so guilty admitting that I really enjoyed being away from my children, especially when they're young and you're still in the haze of postpartum depression and like the anxiety of like, are they okay without me? And And I think very recently, actually, I would admit to being happy without them, happy with them.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes both ways,
scary.
right? You love them, but we also, like you existed before they did.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you want to get in touch with her.
Yeah, I want to remember who I am.
Yeah. And I think it's important, because we can get so wrapped up in what we do as being who we are.
I know.
Especially.
You're not a human doing, you're a human being.
Oh, I like that.
I forget. I think like Ram Dass said that or something. Or Oprah, somebody important. I saw it on TikTok. So yeah, that's so true. But for the longest time, I would feel guilty. And then I would come back to my kids after being away and then overcompensate for that guilt. And, so now I think I'm thoroughly beaten down by motherhood enough to where I could be like, fuck off, I'm leaving. And
What
then
is it
I
you
just
call it profound suffering.
Profound suffering. Motherhood is profound suffering and then profound joy. It's a pendulum and it's not like it's just bananas. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So to get away from it is tremendous.
Yeah, and I can't even, I don't have kids, so I'm not going to pretend to understand.
You have a doggy, but a small dog is equivalent to a small child in a way.
Sometimes, a little bit, where you have to always consider them. You're listening for them. You don't sleep soundly at the first because you're like, are you going to shit in my house? Please don't.
What are you puking on today?
Right, always puking on something.
Yeah.
Yesterday was my flip-flops, which I was like, awesome.
Thank you.
At least you kept it to the tiled area, thanks. But yeah, I think there's a place for you to be a mom and there's a place for you not to. And I think it's also okay to tell your kids, like, I'm going to take a break. Like I'm going with my friends to have a weekend, or I'm taking, mom and dad are going away and you get to enjoy time with Nana or, whoever. Right. And letting them know that it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty. I guarantee they're having a good time and they're fine with it.
That's the thing is that it took me a long time because they also know that if they're like, no, mommy, we love you, that you're going to be like, they know. So if you tell them like, well, you're going to be staying with the nanny or with grandma or whatever, and guess what? You're probably going to need a lot of candy that mommy won't let you.
They're going to let you get away with all sorts of shit.
Yeah. That's how I justify just sneaking away. God. And also what's really helped me is having a space in my home that reminds me of who I was before I had children. My mom goth room, which is very similar design to this room. I go in there sometimes and just lock the door and listen to music that I like.
Yep.
And just think and just like, because your nervous system, I feel, gets so keyed up around small kids because they're tantruming. So when they're dysregulated, I get dysregulated. And I have to go in there and be like, dude,
well, it's like overstimulation. Do you know what I mean? The sounds, the demands, the lack of sleep, like all those things just wear on you. You need to have the safe space.
My safe space. I'm triggered. I need a safe space.
Well, your own
Fuck
space
off.
where kids don't hang out.
You know, I wonder, is there such a thing as a safe space? Really? I mean,
You create it
life.
for yourself in your own head. It's called being resilient. And sorry, that doesn't you can't make other people create it for you. You're responsible.
Right.
That always pisses me off when they're like, we create a safe space. And I'm like, sure, you can do things so you don't allow children to bully each other. But spoilers, everybody gets bullied. The bullies get bullied. I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying the biggest bully in your school probably got hurt by his father or
Absolutely.
his parent. It's this cycle. But I think when it comes to safe spaces for us, that means you eat well, you sleep well, you drink water, you do all the shit we know we're supposed to do. And we probably maybe don't. And that creates our own safe space because people can yell or get really as a therapist, people used to yell in my office all the time. And I could just sit there and be like,
yeah,
I can hold this space for you.
Yeah.
And that's not my life,
Yeah. And that sounds a lot like motherhood because you get yelled at all the time.
And you're just like, this is okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna
I
be
hate
okay.
you. Cool. Good. Wonderful. Fuck off. Okay. Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. You have to contain that and hold the space for them to be wild, feral animals. And then they eventually get civilized over time. But it's right now, my 3-year-old's just a wildling.
Oh, 3-year-olds. It's a tough time. I feel like 2 to 4 is really tough.
It's horrible. It's the worst. But my 6-year-old's cool as shit.
Well, he's come over that hump, right? And he has a little bit more emotional intelligence, a little bit more awareness.
Yeah.
It'll get better and better and better.
It does get better and better. By
Before you know it,
I'm like,
poof, they'll be...
They say that. I don't feel it.
You're in it.
seen this
not
face?
that I can speak to it because I get one night of not good sleep and I'm fucked up. There's no way.
I haven't slept in 7 years because you also think too, pregnancy, you don't sleep through pregnancy. So by the time you give birth, you're so worn down from the physicality of being pregnant.
I'm saying of creating a human.
Dude, it's so it's like the equivalent I read somewhere of running a marathon every day. The amount of work that your body does to create a person.
I'm not surprised because doesn't your blood volume double? That's fucking nuts.
So just you're walking around like an obese Bert Kreischer. When you're 9 months pregnant, it's basically like being Bert. When you see him walk and his face is super big.
It's a lot
and
of
he's
effort.
You
he's
just
laboring.
Yeah, you just labored breathing. Mm-hmm. That's what Bert he must feel like that.
He's got to be exhausted. There
he's
it
9
is.
months. Yeah, he's past due.
Yeah, he's way past due.
That literally is what I looked like when I gained 80 pounds on my first pregnancy from eating In-N-Out every day. God, it's not good. Anyway. Yeah, so by the time you deliver, then you go through the trauma of that, and then they hand you a newborn, and they're like, "Here you go," and you're like, "Wait, what? I can't." And then,
it never stops.
You're on to the races.
Yeah, you just got on that treadmill, didn't realize.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
It is.
Kudos to you doing all the hard work.
Oh, I think so too. Thank you for me.
I'm glad people like you have kids. Responsible, trying their best, actually putting in the effort. It's important. Otherwise, idiocracy over here, you know?
But I get it because it is constant work to parent. It's not, it's like you have to be on it. Nope, don't do that. You can't say that. You can't kick the dog. You can't be an asshole.
Yeah.
And it is easy some days. You're like, I don't care. Just go.
Well, and you
some
can't
days
be
I'm
on
just
every day also. I feel like that's the, perfectionistic,
that's
all
my
or nothing,
problem.
black and white,
That's
when
me.
it's really just gray.
I'm perfect. I can do it. Okay. So you get asked about therapy. Am I too attached?
Yep.
Am I enmeshed? Enmeshment? Is that the word? I'm in
Enmeshment means, so there's enmeshment or codependency, which are both kind of too close. Enmeshment is there are no boundaries between you and I.
Yeah.
If you're enmeshed, your emotions are my emotions. It's our emotions.
Sounds like a lot of our mothers at Studio Jeans.
It can be
I
very
have a feeling
dangerous.
we share that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then codependency is that I make your life possible by doing things to assist you. It's almost like you could think of codependency almost like a helicopter parent, but do it in all relationships where oh no, I'll take care of that. Oh no.
But then, so that's interesting. I was just listening to that book that's now considered, I guess very taboo. Men Are From Mars.
Oh, Mars, Women from Venus. That was so popular in the 80s and 90s.
It was.
It was everywhere. I remember commercials.
Wow. But I think now it's considered wrong because there are no more men and women. There are persons with penises and what are
That's
women
not
and
true.
people with periods.
People can't say stuff like that. That's not right.
So I was listening to men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and I think it's really spot on. If you're a cisgendered woman married to a cisgendered male, this guy nails it. And I have to say, like, I've been practicing these tricks that I learned from this book on my husband, and it's been fantastic.
Like, what is it? Like, I've never read it.
Hold on. We'll get there.
Okay.
I'll give you my secrets.
Okay.
So, but I wanted to run this by you as somebody that knows human beings. He said that women's emotions are like waves. And this is what reminded me of that when you said codependent, is that I think the tendency of women is to care for everyone, all the stuff. Like, we keep, in your mind, you're keeping everything together. And that's codependency, right? Like, if I don't do this, then how will they? Right.
Yep.
And so you're into that. You're into the caring and the doing and the loving. And then your emotions crash. The woman crashes. I'm assuming that's a metaphor, like, period. Like when you get your period. And
when you're like, why was I so emotional? Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I totally am the wave where I overdo it, I overdo it. And then I crash and I'm like, everybody fuck off. I need to be in a room alone for 3 days. I'm going to take a fucking Xanax and I'm going to sleep and no one's going to talk to me. So I very much relate to the wave. But I don't know. What do you think? Is that a codependence? Probably because I'm codependent.
And no, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, codependence, maybe it could be part of it. I've recently been like going down this rabbit hole of my own in my own work of how anxieties like fucked my life up.
God.
So I've always been overly responsible. That like keep it all together because it's actually a way for me to calm my own anxieties. Is like if I'm doing everything, then I know it's getting taken care of, and you're not fucking it up. Because you never do it right, but I'm not going to say that to you because like anxiety, I don't like conflict. And so sometimes I feel like I do certain things. It's a manipulation, not like to harm anybody. It's not malicious, but I'm manipulating so that I'm calmed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah, 100%.
I don't ride like these crazy waves. Everybody's different though.
Yeah.
Mine probably more in the middle, but I definitely will have this like fuck off. But I also don't have kids, right? So I'm not like strapped.
Kids will, yeah.
But like if I don't sleep well, like fuck off.
I know. Fuck.
I mean, legitimately,
right off.
like it's not gonna.
To quote your Canadian-born husband,
you can fuck right off.
You can fuck right off, eh? I love fuck right off. It's so Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, Trailer Park Boys. I'd assume is where it came from.
Yeah, dude. Oh, it's so funny.
I've been watching that again lately. It's so good.
It's so rad. With all the bad news about prices these days, it's nice to know that Adam and Eve is still offering the best deal. At adamandeve.com, get 50% off plus free shipping. That's 50% off an adventurous new toy, a slippery lube, or almost anything else you desire. Our podcast listeners will get 50% off almost any item. Just use code WMMA at checkout and you'll get 50% off. But that's not all. You'll also get 3 bonus sexy items and 6 movies for free plus free shipping. It doesn't matter what you choose. All will be packaged and sent discreetly for free. Not only will you save money on gas, movies, and date night, dinners out, but this is the item that will continue to save you money, deliver tons of fun and satisfaction. So go to adamandeve.com, select any one item, use code WMMA. This is an exclusive offer specific to this podcast. So be sure to support our show and use this code WMMA to get you not just 50% off, but also the 100% free shipping. Code WMMA. Go to adamandeve.com right now. Vitamins. We all know we should be taking them, but really, what do we know of these vitamins? And they don't taste very good until now. Gem is the first real food, whole food multivitamin. Gem Daily Essentials comes in bite-sized cubes, and they provide a comprehensive blend of over 15 superfoods, botanicals, probiotics, vitamins, minerals, and more in just one tasty bite. Gem is not synthetic. It is real food that is fully absorbed by your body for maximum bioavailability and to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet. And I like it best because it's not a pill. It's perfect for people that don't like swallowing pills. It's just a tasty bite that's a concentrated blend of superfoods, herbs, probiotics, prebiotics, and algae that are not found in the average multivitamin. And Gem is delicious. Choose from an array of tasty flavors that best fit your preferences. Gem is backed by science. Our scientific advisory board is a mix of the brightest leaders in medical, nutritional, and holistic medicine. Now, get 30% off your first order when you go to dailygem.co/moms. That's dailygem.co/moms to get 30% off your first order. That's dailygem.co/moms. Yeah. So, dude, you're right. So, yeah, you get, I was like that before kids, and then kids just drain you of your
then
life
you can't
force.
keep everything together. Yeah.
So here's some tricks that I learned.
Oh, yeah.
So listen, ladies, if you're married to a regular dude, and I say regular is in just like sandwiches, blowjobs, football, steaks.
Yep.
That's who most of
My
us
husband.
are married to. Yeah. So this one's so great. This book was like, you have to just give it a listen. It's on Audible. There's the abridged version, which I recommend for moms who like are just too busy. You're not going to fucking read. Okay. I say reading, but I mean, I'm listening to shit all the time.
Hey, that's better than doing nothing.
I know. I like have one earbud in as I'm cooking breakfast for kids. So, okay. Number one, don't give a man unsolicited advice.
True. He gets very agitated.
Yeah. Because we want to help. So the women are always inclined to want to help. And apparently they don't want that. So when you see that they're keyed up about something, just shut up. And if he wants to ask you for assistance or advice, then you listen and give it, but never until.
That's really good advice. That took me a while to learn.
Oh my God, me too. I'm such a fucking idiot. Over the years, Tom would always say, I'm like, yeah, well, you know what you should do? And I just see the seething.
They're already angry immediately. But then the thing with Sean is he'll do it to me.
Idiot.
He'll offer me unsolicited advice.
Oh, and do you like that or
Not at all. Not even a little bit. And I'll say, and that's me saying, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it to like, love you, bye.
Uh-huh.
I'll say, love you. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. It's like the Southern bless her heart.
Oh, yeah.
You
Bless, just bless their heart. Either means you're stupid or you're dumb or we hate you. We don't know.
Just bless your heart, husband. Yeah. So that's true. So don't give advice when when they're not, unless they ask for it. And then he said that men's emotions are like rubber bands. Yeah. So like they come and they go. So like they're stretched. So they stretch, they go away from you, and then they come back. And to let the man go into his cave, like when they're dealing with something, they don't come out and go like, hey, wife, knowledgeable, intuitive, emotionally connected wife, I'm having this turmoil inside. I would love your advice. Instead, they're like, ugh. And then like my husband will just go down to the gym and like come back all sweaty and be like, I'm fine. What's for dinner? You know?
Oh,
and
totally.
I'm like, ew, where are you psychopath? I think men are just psychopaths because they don't express feeling.
They don't know how to acknowledge it. Just Sean's getting better, but it takes him longer to process. You know what I mean? Like he'll just like be in it for a while.
Yeah. Why are they retarded? I feel like men are emotionally.
I think it could be a couple things. I think societally we don't always teach kids, especially our husband's age. Like they don't. I'm pretty sure my husband's father wasn't like, it's okay to cry it out.
That's true. Yeah. The boomers were really repressed.
Like, suck it up, buttercup, you know? Like, I mean, I was even told that. So like, I don't know if we're all fucked up, maybe, but I think there's that. And then I think there's also just like, I don't know, for Sean at least, he's like, I don't think about it the way you think about it.
Yeah.
Like I can get deep in like, I mean, even our conversation.
That would never happen.
No, that's just not.
It doesn't happen with men.
We're just different.
I think too, like this book was saying that men are more into like problem solving and then achievement in the world. And women are more relational, even though you and I are very achievement oriented, it's not the end all be all.
No, and I need the
the
connection.
Yeah.
Like since having moved, I like make more of an effort to like give that to myself, or like I'm trying to plan a trip to LA to like reconnect with friends there and stuff because that's important to me. And I don't think it bothers Sean as much as it does me.
I don't
Like
think it
Sean
bothers
doesn't seem
Tom.
bothered at all.
Dude, Tom can live alone. Like I think there's a room in our house just for him to go and be alone. Like I think that's pretty telling, you know? It's got a big fuck off door too with a lock on it. He's like, I want a lock on it. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
I love that. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, they're not into their feelings as much as we are, and then to figuring it out, they're more like, I just want to get over this. Yeah. So is that accurate, you guys? I mean, I'm talking more to Chad and Chris because I feel like they're more evolved males.
What am I?
You're a
pretty
regular
standard.
Dude,
You're from Mars. Like I would consider you. I don't know. I think Chris is more sensitive because he's got longer hair, and Chad is more
astute observation. Wow, I can't talk today.
Yeah. He is more emotionally attuned, and I would guess Chad is because he's had sex with older French women.
Yeah, that's why I'm more evolved.
So Chris, what do you think? Are you, does this resonate?
I mean, from what it sounds like, you kind of described you women or men are almost the same. It sounded like you're like, men don't give men unsolicited advice, but then you described how you hate it too.
I know, but we do it. But women do it all the time.
Right.
I think we're more apt to do it.
Yeah, we're the asshole willing to give it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think no one likes getting unsolicited advice. But also, and then the rubber band thing and the waves things almost sounds like two different ways to describe the same thing. Men pull away and then they come back. Women get emotional and then they want to be isolated.
No, that's not. Sorry. They don't want to get isolated. That's my mental illness. So in the book,
my misunderstanding.
That's just me. Yeah, no, I isolate. But generally speaking, he said that women, when they crash, they want the support of the man to be like, I see you. What can I help you? They want words of affirmation, or they want to be. You want to feel validated and special. And if
I
a woman
sometimes want that, but I like isolation too. I think it's the introvert part of me. I have to like recharge.
Yeah,
I get fucking exhausted.
I get exhausted easily too.
People are exhausting.
Yeah,
I love them, but
yeah,
if they're not close friends, I'm like,
I'm the same way.
it's
Yeah.
draining my life force.
I think chit chat, it does that.
I can't. Like a party, like going out to like a cocktail party with people like don't really know, and I have to like try to pretend to care. I get home, I'm so exhausted. And because people find out I'm a therapist, then inevitably somebody's like, so let me tell you. It all started when I was 12 years, and I'm like,
oh no.
I'm like, it is 8:30. I'm off the clock. It's so, don't do that to anybody, please. We don't want that.
No.
That's not at a cocktail. No.
I'm friends with a therapist. You're now my second for word. Yeah, you're
Are you
actually
seeking us out.
I don't know. I think I'm so attracted to therapists because
I think you like living in that headspace.
I love it. And I love that. I also like it because I think I made a new rule that I'm not going to make any new friends that haven't been in therapy because I keep my side of the street clean. Or I work on keeping my side clean. And I would love if you could keep your side clean because I don't want to have an unconscious.
Totally, and some passive aggressive weird or something. I'm too tired for that.
I'm too tired. No resources.
No.
But old friends that I've had since I was 13, carte blanche. You want to be a maniac? Yeah, it does, but it doesn't affect me because I know what to expect.
Got you.
Like I know why they're like I've known them so long.
Yeah.
Okay, what's another question you get asked a lot?
I get a lot of questions about like trauma healing.
Yeah.
Because it's exhausting and it takes a long time. People get frustrated. And then there's always that like invalidation, shame spiral of like, did I make this up? I'm making this into a bigger deal than it really was. Did it really happen? Was I really traumatized? Yada, yada,
why
yada.
do we do that?
Because, well, there's a bunch of reasons. But one of them is when we are abused or when we're traumatized when we're younger, you have to consider your resources at that age and your understanding of the world is pretty limited, right? Like when you're a kid, you don't really understand. You actually don't even know if what your parents are doing is wrong because it's the only thing you know, right?
I know.
I don't know how dads act with other people. I only know how my dad acts,
Yeah.
right? Until you start hanging out with friends, parents, and you're like, either their family's fucked up or my family's, then you have those realizations, right? Yeah. But for a huge swath of time,
Oh boy.
you have no idea.
Yeah.
So when something goes wrong or you get hurt and you're told that's your fault, why'd you do that? You made me do that, like abusive language. Then you internalize that and you're like, I did it. I made that happen. I'm the problem.
Yeah.
So shame enters our lives. And so when we go out and we become older, we're like, well, it was my fault, right? I did it and it wasn't that bad, right? Then minimization. Well, then it wasn't really that bad, I'm fine. Look at me living my life. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it's our way of just coping so we can get through, essentially, to survive.
Yeah. Or when you ask somebody like, were you ever, Dr. Drew always says this, he'll be like, were you ever abused growing up? No.
Everybody always says no.
No. Well, there was one time my mom would hit me with a hairbrush every night for 20 years. But that was not, I wasn't like
and
a
neglect is
spanking.
abuse too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you go into dance clubs with your dad.
Yeah.
What is it? Relax.
Oh, relax. Frankie goes to Hollywood.
Yeah. See, that's not good either.
No. Yeah. And it's true because for so many years I was like, because my parents would also tell me like, you are overreacting. That whole thing, like this is not abuse. Shut up. I am not a drunk. Drunks are, falling down. They don't go to work. And I'm like, okay, so maybe, daddy and mommy are right about everything. And you totally minimize your own
you don't
experience.
know. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I am overreacting. I am too sensitive. And so when we go out in the world and other things happen that are traumatizing, we're like, it's just me, versus.
Or it doesn't even register.
No, you're like that. You can find yourself in other abusive relationships.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason I became a comedian because that is trauma over and over.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys bomb and survive.
And then staying in shitty hotels or motels and coming up. Yeah, it's all trauma.
Yeah.
But you this is fine. What are you talking about? I'm living the dream.
I know. I don't know how you did it.
But then I couldn't imagine being a therapist and listening to other people's stuff because it would affect me. I think do you go home when you go home at night and just cry?
No, I mean boundaries.
Oh, right. You're like, that person's fucked up. Is that what you say on the drive home? You're like, oof.
No, sometimes it's heavy. And sometimes it's usually drive homes are quiet. I don't want music on. I've been listening all day. It's kind of exhausting. So it's usually quiet time. And it's almost like I never bring work home. I mean, you can't bring your files home unless you have a locked cabinet. There's HIPAA laws and stuff. But I do all my notes in my office. Then I lock them up, shut down the office and leave. I don't take any work home like that. And therefore it's a nice break. This is work. This is real life. Also, I'm different as a therapist than I am. The way you know me is not therapist. Only my patients know me as therapist, Katie, because it's just different.
Of course.
You wouldn't want me to be like,
I don't like silent. I just saw you do it. You fucking slipped into it. I felt it. I was like.
Or you ask a question, then just however long it takes for the reply, you just have that space.
Whoa, you totally reminded me of my shrink just there. You went into it. What are you guys writing? What are the notes?
Little things to remember or things to check back on. So,
this chick is fucking whacked.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, they're medical
borderline.
records.
I always imagine that she's writing down she's diagnosing me. She's definitely PTSD. This one's bipolar.
I might write PTSD ? And then write some symptoms: hypervigilance, anxiety.
Yeah.
You
see, I fucking knew it. How
else are we supposed to diagnose you? Just be and depression. Flip through the DSM. This one.
The DSM. So what a fascinating. The DSM. So for those of you, can you explain what the DSM book is?
Yeah, it's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And it's put out by the APA, the American Psychological Association. And it's a book to help guide diagnostics. So let's say you come to me and you have some symptoms, you're lethargic, you don't enjoy the things you used to. And I'm like, you're not sleeping well. So I'm looking at, I'd know, but let's say I'm new to the practice. I would look and it would be oh, that's kind of depression symptoms. But then it has questions in there, what they call differential diagnosis. Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is it postpartum depression?
Right.
Is it bipolar
so there's
disorder?
a checklist. You go, oh yeah, they've got this. That would indicate this diagnosis.
Yes.
So what's really interesting, and I think you've mentioned this to me before, is that the DSM changes over time, right? Because we learn more, we calibrate language, I imagine there's medical billing practices that come into play. So
not anymore. They don't use the DSM for billing anymore.
Oh, okay.
They use the ICD-11, and that's I don't remember what it's called.
These are such cool names for such an important ICD-11.
The ICD.
That sounds terrible.
They're just honestly, I love and hate it. The DSM, I don't know if they're going to make another one. They just came out with a text revision. It's honestly, it kind of sucks. Not everybody fits into these categorizations, and then you can't get coverage maybe, or there's misdiagnosis and mistreatments. And the ICD-11 is just much more the medical model for insurance purposes.
Oh, right.
And so I feel as long as we as clinicians are still learning how to treat symptoms and underlying conditions, we're going to be fine. I don't really think we need more updates. I know that sounds crazy, but yes, they needed to remove the anorexia component. There's a symptom you had to lose your period. I'm dudes can have anorexia too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So there's all sorts of weird shit in there.
It's interesting.
And they used to say that being gay was a mental illness.
That's what I'm thinking about too, because we've
Yeah.
since revised that, like
Yeah.
gayness, and then now, with trans and everything. I just so you know, I took a quiz a few episodes. Was it last episode? To see if I was on the autism spectrum, and I am 4 points away from being likely Asperger's. Right?
Yep.
Interesting. I don't believe that at all. I took an online quiz.
I took an online quiz because sometimes we aren't, but anyway, I thought that was interesting. Do you know what autism is? We were discussing that.
Yeah,
last time.
autism spectrum disorder, so ASD. They don't use the term Asperger's anymore, and people on autism with ASD and the autistic community don't like that term because it has like a dark past. You can look it up. I don't specialize in this, but I do have a lot of autistic people in my community. So autism spectrum disorder comes along. It's like a spectrum, just like it says. So you could see someone who maybe has no trouble speaking, making eye contact, is super social, and still has hyper focus on certain areas and struggles in other parts of their life. So you can, high functioning, you could say. And a lot of people don't even like those terms, high functioning, low functioning, because then there's judgment around that. So people just like to say you're part of the spectrum. But it can go all the way to someone who is severely autistic, who has trouble regulating all the time. And that's where stemming, a lot of autistic people stem, which is like repetitive behaviors to soothe your nervous system. And so the stemming can get so hard. That's where like hitting their head against the wall or like scratching or rocking. It can get to the point where it's like they're not able to hide it. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and it makes it difficult for them to function. So it's hard to hold jobs and things like that. So there's a whole spectrum of it. But yeah, so.
And it's funny. So before we diagnosed these people, like in society, what the fuck did we do with these folks? Did we just throw them in asylums?
Possibly the ones that really struggled, like that are on the lower functioning side with a lot of the stemming.
Yeah.
But honestly, isn't Elon Musk, doesn't he say that he was diagnosed with Asperger's?
I love Elon Musk.
And
Yes.
he's high. Like, I think that's the thing is it's like schizophrenics or bipolar people. Like people always assume, they can't do anything. I'm like, no, they really can.
Sweetie, they're among us.
Yeah.
They walk amongst us.
Right. Well, Kanye West has like created amazing music. He's
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I would assume those were all done in manic episodes. I don't know that, but I feel like there's different parts of our brain you can unlock.
Absolutely.
For better, for worse.
Especially crereatives. And I would argue that Elon Musk is a visionary, creative, brilliant mind. But also too, the other day I was sitting in a room full of comedians and I was looking around and I was diagnosing everybody, like my total. I was like, I know what your deal is. I know what my deal is. And then I know what your diagnosis, and I know you, because I've known these people for 20 years now. And I was like, look at us. Like, we're all like these functioning mental patients, basically. Like comedians are just mental patients that have figured out how to deal with life. Like that this is our thing, our drug. Or I hate using that. I hate that now, like, it's a drug, but like our way to cope is stand up.
It's that sublimation.
Sublimation.
Defense mechanism.
Yeah.
So
and we're all
bad into something
obsessed
good.
with it. Yeah. And we're all obsessed with this one thing, but we're all insane. And I think it took me a long time to
Therapists
realize
are
that.
too. A lot of them.
I know, and that's why I think that's why
Totally
I love therapists. Because game recognized game. Like, how are you going to be a good therapist if you haven't seen some shit and you haven't been through stuff?
I don't think you are effective. But the only problem I find between one of my Dr. Sherman out of Santa Monica, great psychiatrist, my favorite. He had told me a long time ago this, and it always stuck with me, and it's very true, that the difference between a good therapist and a bad therapist is that a good therapist has worked on their shit and they acknowledge, and they didn't get into what they do to fix themselves. They actually got in it to help people. A bad therapist hasn't worked on their shit and got into the field to fix themselves. And that's the real truth. I think almost every person in the psychology realm has some shit. I mean, everybody has shit. Let's just be honest. Life isn't perfect for anybody, but yeah, you want to have someone who's worked through their stuff.
Dude, same with comedians, because you get into it. Yeah, the ones that are only thinking about me, I'm not giving. And then you grow up and you're like, you have to give to the audience. They're invested in you. You better provide something for them. But I see lots of younger ones who are just so unconscious. And you're like, I know, I get it. It feels good to vent up there, but no one cares.
No
one gives a shit about your problem, sweetie, unless it pertains to their
helps
lives.
them.
Yeah. It's got to be a story. So speaking of, the staff, we went to go see Maverick yesterday. And it's the Top Gun sequel that's been decades in the making. And I was so taken with this film that last night I was in bed just buzzing, just still buzzing from the high of Maverick. And the boys came. I forced my staff to take time off work to come see it with me yesterday during the day because we saw it yesterday, and they all came wearing aviator sunglasses.
Oh, cool!
And one our new employee here, one of our editors, came wearing the jacket, like an official Top Gun.
Wow!
And I mean, look, it got me to thinking: why is this story so able? I loved it when I was a child. I saw it in the theaters about 5 times the summer it came out in '86. And why am I still so taken? And I think because, and you're a therapist, you're a psychologist, is it the hero's journey? So essentially, Maverick is a lone wolf, and he's overcome the death of his friend Goose, his best friend. We don't know that he has parents in this thing. No, sorry. His father, Mitchell, was killed too, right? Yeah, he was killed in a mysterious thing. We don't know how his father dies. His mother dies of cancer, Maverick's mother. So he's an orphan. So you have the orphan part of the story, the hero's journey. The woman dumps him to go away, and yet he still musters the courage to get back up there, get back in the air.
And also he's a badass. And he's a badass. Like, I think it's that everybody wants to have that story. Where because we can all feel like life takes shits on us every day, but then you want to rise above. Yeah. And that's super motivating. Why wouldn't you want that? And you're like, man, he's so cool.
He's so cool.
Fuck, he's so cool. Right?
The flying scenes are just killer. And
yeah,
and he's but he's not cocky. He's not arrogant.
He's just fucking good.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to be good at something like that. Also, it's super dangerous and super, I don't know. It's like the elite of the elite. Do you know how they talk it up? Like, we're the best of the best of the best.
Our dicks are the hardest. We play volleyball the sweatiest. And they still play volleyball in their jeans. Not spoiler alert. Sorry,
spoiler alert.
They play whatever, and they still exercise in no shirt and jeans, which is odd. Nobody wears jeans to exercise.
There's a guy on my mom's street who goes running every day in jeans, and I'm always like, "What's with this guy?" Yeah, there are so many other options now.
You never heard of shorts? They don't have shorts at Top Gun in Miramar, California.
Right?
Listen, man, it's hot. It's summertime. You don't need to sleep in your sweat and get all gross and stinky. I don't. You know why? I use Miracle Brand's self-cooling bed sheets. I stay comfortable all night long. They have self-cooling properties. Using silver-infused fabrics originally developed by NASA, Miracle Brand sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long so you get a better sleep every night. They are self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with natural silver that prevent 99.9% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. They're luxurious. They're comfortable. It's better for your skin because you're not sleeping in bacteria. Try it. Go to trymiracle.com/WMMA. Try it today. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Be sure to use our promo code WMMA at checkout to save 40% off and get 3 free towels. And Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Brand. Go to trymiracle.com/WMMA and use the code WMMA to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/WMMA. Thank you, Miracle Brand, for sponsoring this episode. Yeah, it's so
Doesn't
funny.
make any sense.
But I think because too, in this generation, I think right now the AntiHero is more popular. I saw the Batman, which I don't know where the fuck it's stupid. And he's like this reluctant, whimpering, emo, hair in the face, limp dick fucking bullshit. And I'm like, that's really indicative of the era we're in, where the hero can't just be the hero. Like a man that stands up tall and has a nice hard peener and is like, fuck you, like that guy. And again, he's not arrogant. He's not like an alpha douchebag. He's just like
a powerful male figure,
a powerful human.
Yeah.
And that scene is like, boo. But I will tell you this. I went to go buy tickets for Maverick at 9 a.m. that day. The show was at 2 p.m. It was already almost sold out.
Oh, wow. Good.
So that tells me
we're coming back around.
people need this.
We do. I think I've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed this too, but we went through this huge swing of like, cancel, you're canceled.
Of course
This is
I noticed.
stupid.
I
don't like
hate it.
Yeah, I hated it.
Makes me
Hated it.
crazy.
Because
Makes me listen to Megyn Kelly because I'm like, she's the only one talking
Making
about
sense.
Yeah, like I'm listening to Megyn Kelly. Something's wrong with me.
Yeah, Sean and
Jordan Peterson makes sense.
Jordan
What?
Peterson, yeah.
Ben Shapiro's making sense.
That makes you feel insane. You're
we
like
live
in
in
the upside down.
Yeah, fucking what reality am I in? But sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I'm so fired up.
No, Sean and I were the same too because we're like, what the fuck is happening? And it definitely feels like, I'm not a conspiracy person, but it feels that way where you're like, someone's like pulling these levers and like making everybody fucking lose their minds into like nonsense land.
Nonsense.
Where honestly, it's funny because I've been online for how we've been out in the world presenting ourselves to other people for a long time. And I could fucking care less if someone wants to cancel me because I'm like, I'm going to get up tomorrow and still do my job. You know, like, I don't know. I think that we kind of got sick of it, right?
Cancel my
Everything's
asshole.
canceled, therefore cancellations mean nothing.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, I understand as a therapist, people being sensitive, and that's helpful, but that's helpful information for you as a sensitive person to better understand how you can manage that.
Take responsibility.
It's not my responsibility for you getting upset.
Yeah.
I can't control you. You can't control me, you know?
Take responsibility for your fucking self, man.
And I think now we're swinging back into like, hopefully a little bit more normalcy where it's like, you know, obviously there are outliers and people here like, that person shouldn't exist. Like, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
But most of this quote unquote cancel culture was not at all necessary.
So dumb.
And it was so stupid.
And what I'm learning too is that it came from the universities, which is really fucking egregious. And I think too, it's funny because I posted a clip about the swimsuit, the Sports Illustrated model on my Instagram, and it was me being like, this is nonsense. If everyone is beautiful, then nothing is beautiful. There's no standard of meaning. This is absolute, and it is a men's health magazine, and she is not healthy. It's like fucking so dumb. And in the comments, some people were like, okay, boomer, you're so old. And I'm like, yes, I am. You're right. I'm 46 now. But the reason you don't see a problem with the way the world is presented to you is because you are indoctrinated in this bullshit Kool-Aid. You were never taught to critically think and go, that is an interesting thing. Why am I being fed this narrative? Why is that? That's weird.
Well,
Pronouns.
no fact checking either. Nobody fact checks. They're
Everything's
like,
on the internet.
I saw something on TikTok, and so that makes it true. I'm like, if your source is okay, so something funny that I always consider is like when I was in school, in order to cite a source. So let's say I'm writing a paper about borderline personality disorder. In order for me to cite something, it has to be has to have what's the word? It has to be less than 10 years old. So meaning if it happened 11 years ago, it's too old. Can't use it. It has to have been peer reviewed. I think it was like 2 peer reviewed articles, meaning someone who's in the same realm as you has looked at it and been like, that's not garbage.
It's a
fact checker kind of.
100%. Yeah.
And then I want to say there was one other thing. It had to have cite at least 6 of its own sources that will also fit. So it was like this crazy criteria for me to be able to cite an actual source and use it and get credit for it in school. Now, I'm sure everybody's colleges had different rules and regulations around that, but it's always something like that. Today, I hope that still stands, but people on the fucking internet are just like, well, I read this blog that told me that there are only 4 types of people with depression.
I know.
And I know better than you.
Everybody's an expert versus the people that actually went to school and are legitimate experts who are educated. And I also think too, the acceptance of like the pronoun culture, which I agree. Yes, there are people that have gender dysphoria. Is that even are you allowed to call it dysphoria anymore? I don't know if that's politically
I
correct.
think so. I mean, I don't really follow the PC stuff. I just know that diagnostically speaking, you'd say, oh, you have gender dysphoria.
So the whole thing, and like the reason us oldies are upset about the pronoun stuff is because we were raised to be free thinkers and to think critically. And if you're impeding my speech, you're telling me what I can. It's not that I don't accept you and your identity. If Katie Morton today were to be like, listen, I'm transitioning to a man, I want you to call me Kyle. I'd be like, yeah, Kyle, done.
Yeah.
But blanket it, like that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think there's also this like the intolerance or the assumption, I guess, that people are malicious when they don't follow it. Like, let's say I am transitioning and you randomly call me Katie. I'd be like, that name is and I get like offended
Yeah,
as if
cancel.
you're doing it to harm me.
It's too personalized.
And again, I think it's that like no one's taking responsibility for their own emotional reaction.
100%.
And if someone is doing it malicious, but I think it's like 90% people aren't. People just forget, or you get used to calling someone a certain thing. And it's, or like even saying they instead of he or she is it's something you have to think about. It's not something I was taught in English class or things I've read in books. Like it's
a new thing.
It takes time.
Takes time. And also too, I think one of the most liberating things that I ever realized, I was about 27 in the workplace, is that nobody's thinking about you.
No, they're thinking about themselves.
I get so hung up, in my youth about like, oh my God, I said this to somebody, and they're all thinking about me. Like, baby, nobody's thinking.
They've
about
moved
me.
right along. They're worried about their own shit. They're thinking you're thinking of, it's like this weird cycle. We're so we're just so stuck on ourselves.
So stuck on ourselves. And it's so liberating once you realize like I'm not a main character in anybody else's life but my own. Nobody fucking cares.
It is liberating because you're like, even silly things you do and you embarrass yourself in public and you're like, they'll forget about it by tomorrow.
Forgotten.
Yep.
So speaking of trans, I'm so happy you're here because I've been obsessed with Mattel. They've been putting out so many new variants of Barbie, and it's hilarious because they're trying to be.
Do people buy them?
That's
you
my
buy them.
biggest question. It's me, and they limit it to 2 per customer. Otherwise, I would buy the entire catalog.
Really? They limit it to 2?
2.
That's weird.
I know.
You're like, did you only produce 2? That's so
I don't know why. So
that's weird.
So I'm obsessed. I've bought so many different ones. I think this is fun. So they also try to be inclusive but not offensive. So what they'll do is they'll be like brunette Ken. And Ken is clearly Asian, not just brunette or brunette Ken, but brunette Ken is Latino. And like, why not just say
Ken?
Puerto
Ken
Rican?
comes in these different variations of what a dude looks like.
Right, but they
so funny.
They won't racially label him. So instead they go by hair color.
Oh my God. Look at Ken from the vintage. He's like super tanned.
I know. It's just so they're really trying to be inclusive, and I think that's neat. But okay, so let's talk about Laverne Cox. So this is Laverne Cox, trans Barbie, and it's very provoking for me. I like Laverne Cox as an actress. I think that she's really a pioneer. I mean, she was trans before it was
talented.
Cool.
Yeah,
and like, I think this is fascinating. So let's talk about this. First of all, how many people in the world are trans by your estimation?
I'd have to look up the stats. I know it's a very low number. I want to say it's less than 1% of the population. If you don't know, schizophrenia affects 1% of the population. And I know it's around that stat. I don't know, Nadav, if you can look. Yeah, the percentage is very low. I know now they make it out to be, now it does exist, obviously.
Yes.
Very much so. And gender dysphoria has been around forever. And I have some good friends who are transgender, and honestly, it's kind of interesting to me because my friends that I knew before, like you said before, being trans was so cool, I guess. And they would get sick of talking about it, like online or with either like, my life is like, I'm just me, Yeah. And there was, I think it's Nikki Tutorials is a YouTuber who no one knew was trans because she was like, it's not part of who I like. That's just something that happened. I'm over, like I moved on, I mean, imagine always being categorized because of this one part of you.
Of the meat shell that you're in. It was like when everybody would be like, come onto the stage, very funny female comedian. And I was like, guys, I'm not going to.
Yeah, but like,
you're just like,
does it have to be? Yeah. And I'm sure it feels that way too.
Okay, so Nadav says 0.7% of Americans.
I thought it was, okay.
1.4 million adults identify as trans. Okay.
And that sounds about right.
Wow. So the question becomes, gosh, I don't know. I mean, do we play with these? Do you want to teach your kids about this stuff? At what age do you buy this for little girls play with this unless it's a boy who's going to be a little girl someday. Like my boys would probably just take her and...
My brother would like light her on fire.
Sames. Yeah.
Like, pop her head off.
She'd end up in the pool face down in dirt somewhere.
I would say forget her somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I played with Barbies growing up. I don't think... The thing that I think people are misunderstanding is children don't have to be like walked through sexual identity or gender identity right away. Like kids are pretty, like we're sponges, right? No one told me from like in school, well, you're a girl and you're a boy, and that, you know, like, I mean, yes, that can be part of the conversation if your child has questions, but this whole, like, I forget, was it Florida or something had that law like before, was it like kindergarten through second grade or something?
I think here in Texas too, it was like they wanted to have pride parades starting in kindergarten.
Yeah. And I don't think, I mean,
I'm not sure that makes sense.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it either, but I don't think we need to talk about sex with kids that early. I just think of it as sex. Like when we're talking about, you know, sexual preferences and sexual identity, like we don't need to talk to kids. Like when did we do sex ed?
Oh, junior high.
Same.
But by the time people are already active, it was late. But then, so that's what's an interesting point is that people bring up is like, but heterosexual stuff is brought up in children's cartoons. And at first I was like, no, but then we were watching and I was like, oh my God, these are all about heterosexual relationships.
Well, Bugs Bunny dresses up like a girl. Oh, remember? And like there are things like that. And so I think for the 0.7% of the population, they're wanting some kind of representation. Yeah. I just don't know if schools are where it needs to be done. I feel like, but I don't know. I struggle with it because some parents are like asleep at the wheel. And so, you know, the schools that's why sex ed is important because parents don't do it, or you know what I mean? So
maybe when they're older and they're in sex ed or something, you can be like,
but sex ed should be earlier because I agree. Ours, well, actually,
so lame.
We had a first thing about like essentially it was like wear deodorant, you stink was kind of the thing. We had that first
like sixth grade where you're like, you guys have pubes? Yeah.
And they were like, you need to wear deodorant, and everybody got free deodorant. Girls got tampons or pads or something. And then they're like, okay, we'll see you next year for the next round of things because y'all stunk. So now we're taking care of that. So I think there are like levels to it, and I think it should happen earlier because a lot of times by the time they're talking about like STDs,
it's done.
People are already having sex.
Well, it's funny. I was reading something about France and how they have anatomically correct dolls for little children to play with. So for instance, I know you guys are wondering what's Laverne's junk like down here. It's the first thing I did. There is no junk. Which is like, and historically, Barbie's never had junk.
Neither does Ken. He just has little underwears on.
I know.
It's so funny.
Put a chastity belt on the new Ken. But in France, if it's not a point of shame, which it isn't, like, why not just make things? I mean, I grew up with that model, like,
because your
very
parents
European,
are from Europe. Yeah,
and it was just neither here nor there.
Well, Sean is from Montreal, and he was like, God, Americans are so uptight about sex.
So uptight.
Because Quebec, for people who don't know, Montreal is like a French speak. It's
France.
It's very different.
France.
It's French. I'm sure France would be like,
no, they're not. But they do speak French.
They do speak French. And it's like definitely more of a European feel.
Yeah.
And so, we are uptight about sex. And I think we make it into a bigger deal than it needs to be.
Definitely. Because they can handle it if you're just matter of fact about stuff.
Yeah. Well, then it's not as like taboo and secret. And then I feel like it's almost the thing when you're a kid, when your parents say don't do it, you're like, well, I'm going to fucking do it.
I know.
Like that's that part of me. And I feel like we create that in our kids by being like, sex is dirty.
I know.
It's bad.
We so do.
And then you're like, but maybe I want it as a teenager. You're like,
oh,
I'm bad.
I know.
And there's that rebel part of us that it's because it's natural developmentally when you're a teen to push boundaries.
Yeah.
How far can I get with this? What can I do? How can I get attention if you're neglected? We're very adaptive. But if we make it into a taboo thing, then I think people are more apt to.
It's human nature to want to do that thing even more.
Totally.
God, that's so funny. I'm just thinking about I'm really learning about, excuse me, I'm going to throw up. How,
I'm going to throw up. I was like, that's not a burp, but it kind of was.
Men's relationship to their peeners watching my boys, because you as a woman,
boys are always grabbing it. Why are little boys always grabbing their peeners?
Exactly. So as a woman, you know, you have boyfriends and then your husband, and you're like, what is your obsession with your peener? And now that I have two little boys, it starts so early.
Girls are not that way. That's the funny thing.
No,
you don't see girls with their hands down their pants.
No. But because it's hidden, it's hidden, it's internal. Our stuff is internal. And it's just such a different, and I wonder what effect that has on you. I mean, overall, like for instance, if our genitals and our pleasure centers are hidden, theirs are external, they're openly. I mean, my boys will sit and watch cartoons and just like touch their Ds. And we have to be like, okay, you can do that just in your own bedroom. Like,
not out in public.
Not out in public, weirdo. Like, not in parks either, or in your car. So, because some guys grow up to do that, you know.
It's creepy.
But the point being, I wonder what that. I don't know. Like, I wonder what that does to you later on in life. Like, if we're hidden and we're more like, oh, I'm ashamed.
Could be. I mean, it's also the way we talk about women's sexuality, or the way I was raised. You know, I was raised Christian. I mean, I haven't gone to church since I had the choice. But you know, it's very much like you don't, and you know, you're not supposed to want that kind of thing. Like, it's dirty, it's bad kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that definitely gets into our heads more, although it can get into guys too. Like, I mean, guys that I went to church with, I'm sure have their own ish with it too. But there was an interesting article. This is years and years ago. So forgive me, I don't remember like who did it or whatever, but it was kind of, I went down a rabbit hole. Is it Kenzie, or what's the name of the
Kenzie.
guy? That sexual,
spectrum.
So interesting.
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole in grad school on this.
Well, let's describe it before we move forward. So Kinsey came up with the scale of, was it homosexuality or something?
There's
The
essentially
homo scale.
It's essentially.
Oh,
what
here,
we're
I can
kind of
show you right now. Let me illustrate Kinsey's.
Okay.
So this would be like heterosexual. This is a 1. This guy likes chicks, steaks, blowjobs, sports. Sandwiches. This is a 10. This guy listens to Frankie Goes to Hollywood and does crystal meth and blows guys
does crystal meth
in San Francisco.
Totally.
This guy sucks
His
deep.
hair is so interesting.
bizarre.
So weird.
So, okay, there you go. So there's a spectrum.
There's a spectrum. So he was doing research, kind of almost like creepy research. If you really, there's like a documentary too, if people really want to get into
There's
it.
movies about him. It's cool.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So I went down a rabbit hole about like, and this was before, now everybody's, I'm assuming, doing, you know, different research on gender identity, sexuality. But there was this, what's it called? It'll come to me in a second, but I can't think of it. But it's a biologist of sorts about like why we look the way we look and why things are the way, an evolutionary biologist. He wrote this paper about like the reason our arms are the length that they are is so we can essentially play with ourselves.
Whoa.
I was like, what?
Wow.
And I'll never because then I nannied and babysat, and boys always play with their peeners.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that guy fucking right? What the fuck?
Yeah, he is.
Like, why? Because he's like, it would make more sense for it, you know, if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense where it is. Like, it's harder to clean and it's difficult to, you know, to access, like for actual sex and stuff. It's like more complicated.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Well,
yeah.
But you
Anyway.
think too about childbirth. And so I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday. I'm like, why would we have the birth canal right next to the brown canal?
Yeah. Why would you put...
And you shit while you're giving birth.
Yeah.
So like your baby's just going to be born in a pile of feces. That makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's so weird.
And it always leads to like hemorrhoids too, because it's like, it's horrible. So
I know.
certain things. Yeah. So anyway, that was the hypothesis. Now, do I know? I don't.
It's an interesting idea.
I was just like, it like stuck with me. It's one of those weird
interesting.
factoids where you're like, I can't move past that.
I can't move past that either. Now I'm going to see everybody's arm length and be like, he's got a
you
big
can play with
one.
yourself.
Yeah. Because some guys have really long arms. Like that swimmer, that Phelps guy, he's got legs. So he must have a long dong
I don't know.
under his knees. Jay and his knee dong. Yeah, that's so fucking funny. I mean, I'm always reluctant to label kids sexuality. So I think that's my one thing too, is like, okay, it's great that we have these labels and ideas, but let's not be so quick to go like, you're trans. Like, I don't know, dude. I dressed up like Robert Smith from The Cure when I was 15.
I was a tomboy. Like, I didn't want to wear makeup. I wasn't interested in anything girly for a while. Like, I don't know. I do worry about that. I have a big concern about two things involving the kind of trans movement, I guess. I don't know what we should call it, but that's what I would call it. Is number one, I worry that children will transition that maybe aren't actually trans. And I don't know, like, I don't think you can go back from that. Like,
I think you'd forever changed if they do it too early.
Yeah. And there was a research article came out, I want to say last year, it was like following 10 people who wanted to like go back, transition back to their original. And I don't know, I'd have to dig it back out because it's been a while since I read it, but it was honestly kind of sad. A lot of them were saying like, I got whipped up into a frenzy, and I've always been more of like, you know, like more feminine male or more male female, and thinking that meant, you know, something it didn't for them.
Yeah, maybe it just doesn't mean shit. Maybe it just means you're on this Kinsey scale of
the fluidity. Of just, yeah. So I worry about that. And then I do worry about it eroding women's rights.
Yeah.
Because there's always bad actors. And that kind of fucking sucks.
I know. Yeah, because I remember more in college reading books about sexual fluidity and of female sexuality. Like, I mean, shit, look at Kelly McGillis, who was, Maverick's girlfriend in the first Top Gun film, and she doesn't show up in the second one. But she was married to 2 guys and then was like, fuck it, I'm into women now. And now she's married to a woman, which is like, okay, that can happen too, which is so funny.
Oh yeah, she was so pretty. Yeah,
she was. She looked like Grace Kelly in the first Top Gun film.
Well, and I think a lot of people, I mean, I've had friends who have, wouldn't call themselves gay or lesbian or whatever, but they've dated different people. It's more about the person.
Yeah,
and I think
cool.
that's really, for a lot of people, that's it. So
no, maybe when Tom dies, I'll just marry a girl. Because I'm not sure I'll be sexually interested.
Yeah, be
By
tired.
the time I have menopause and these kids have just drained me, and be like, I just want a friend.
Yeah, someone to talk to. Just listen. Just drink wine.
Talk about feelings and shit all day.
Yeah.
Like the Golden Girls. Do you think they were all lesbos?
I think they're just tired of men, except for Blanche.
Oh,
was
it
Blanche?
Blanche Devereaux.
Was it Blanche that was the...
See, now that's probably what Golden Girls resonates so much with the culture today. Women are like, I get it. But they were all young. They were like...
I know. They were like 50. It was something I saw where it was like Sex and the City, the reboot, which I still haven't watched. I know.
It's terrible.
I didn't want to. I knew it was terrible. They were the same age as them. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. What are we doing? I mean,
that's hilarious. They're only in their
Estelle.
50s.
How old is Estelle?
Well, Estelle Getty, they put makeup on her, I think, to make her look older.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think you're right. Like,
that's
what
wild.
the fuck? Betty White. Will you Google like how old the Golden Girls were supposed to be?
Yeah, I think they were like in their
Remember
50s.
the ex-husband Stan, like that
Yes, he'd
loser
come by,
cover. And, oh, Stan.
Yeah.
B. Arthur. Oh, Dorothy and Rose are actually both 55. Blanche is in her early 50s and Sophia is 80.
Okay, so Sophia was old.
Blanche is in her early 50s. Guys, I'm almost in my early, I'm 46.
I know. My husband's 47.
This is like the teenage dream. I'm dressing like I'm 15 still. This is wild.
I mean, we do what we want. We're
It's a different era. I mean, thank God women are, look at that. It's fucking amazing.
That's crazy.
Literally the same age. Yeah.
But it also, I mean, I think
you gotta let this sink in.
Oh, God, they're moo-moos.
Wild. And Miranda became a lesbian. Well, she was in real life. And then, so she did that. Miranda was like, fuck it. I'm done. I'm done being from Mars and Venus or whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, let's just date
Find
chicks.
someone on my own planet.
Yeah.
How crazy. Oh my God.
It's so funny how women, like you just went gray at 52 and you put on a frumpy pantsuit.
You cut your hair real short and you permed it.
You just gave up.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, not to say but women have more options now.
Yeah, that's true.
And we also live longer.
Yeah.
So 50's not what it used to be.
It's really not. It's really not.
So I think that's important to remember. And because we have more options, we're like, maybe I won't get married until I'm 35, and I don't know.
Yeah, I did.
Everything's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just listening to some podcast about that. Like, hey, marriage is a societal paradigm, but people are opting out of doing it their own way. I'm curious to see what happens next generation. I mean, we're all older doing stuff. I was an old mom. I was an old bride.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I grew up in a really small town, like less than 10,000 people still.
Oh my God.
And it's grown a lot since I left. I'll take you sometime. It'll be ridiculous.
Do you know everybody? You must know everybody.
I used to when I would go home from college. They'd be like, oh my God, your grandpa was just in here. And now your dad was just saying how you were coming home. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? I just want to check out and get my groceries and get out of here. But it kept me kind of safe. Grew up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I graduated college was 21 and then went to graduate school. And I remember I had boyfriends or whatever and dated. And I remember my brother of all people saying to me and then to my mom, are you ever going to settle down? I was all of 23, 24.
Yeah,
but it's
beginning
kind
of
of
your
mentality. My friends had already, I mean, they're not really my friends anymore, but people I grew up with, they were already married and had kids. And I didn't know if I wanted any of that. to be honest.
Yeah,
Until
yeah.
I met Sean, because he's cool. I like him a lot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Your husband. That's so true, because a lot of people that write into the show are like, I'm 25 and everybody's on me to have kids. And I'm like, gosh, that's so regional, because in LA, they're not on you.
No.
And here, Austin is, I see moms my age at the park too.
Yeah.
So it is regional. It's cultural.
It totally is. And I think I got married at 29, almost 30. And I was one of my first friends to get married in LA.
Wow.
You know, like my friend Abba got married right before me, like a few months before. And then that was it. Then my other friends, even one of my friends didn't get married. I think she was like 38.
Wow.
Yeah, it just depends. I don't know. There was no pressure. So when my brother said that, I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life right now. I still got a lot of other shit to figure out.
Lots of other stuff. I was just talking to a comedian. I think it was Jeff Ross. You know, he did a private gig together. Excuse me. And he's not married. He has no children yet. And I think he's probably in his 50s. And he's like, so what have you been up to, Christina? And I was like, raising people. It's I wake up at 6:30 a.m. I go to bed at 9:30, and it's wiping asses and stuff. It's just everything is the same. And he's like, he was kind of like staring off, and he was really listening. And he's like, God, that sounds amazing. And I go, what do you mean, Jeff? He goes, well, that structure and that discipline of just having something to tether you, like to have that routine.
Oh, interesting.
And I started to think about it, and like at times, obviously it's dreadful and whatever, but it is very anchoring.
Well, and some of us everybody needs structure. Let's be honest. Some kind of structure is comforting.
Yeah.
And if you've been untethered, like even Sean and I, so we've been together for, I don't know, like 14 years or something, and getting Roxy.
Yeah. I was just going to say that.
At the beginning, no one talks about this either, which I think it's like having kids. We were like, we fucked up.
Yeah, dogs are the worst.
What the fuck are we thinking? Like we used to just, I don't know what we want to do today. Let's just go to the water, then let's wander around. Now we're like, how long has she been at home? I don't know. She probably has to go potty, or can we take the dog there? Or maybe we can leave her with, like, what?
I know. It's a whole thing.
Nobody talks about that. So like, fuck you all for not talking about it.
And puppies too, when you're potty, I was going to say toilet training. But when you're potty training, every 4 hours.
I wish I could teach her to go in the toilet.
You can.
You do your duty here.
You can. Yeah, my friend just got a dog, and he's about my age too, and he hasn't had no wife, no kids, nothing. And I'm watching him transform into a dog parent.
Yeah.
Dogs are great training for children. And I'm watching him be like, I can't go to the movies with you because I can't put the dog in doggy daycare because she doesn't have her shots yet. And I was like,
oh yeah, because she has to have, yeah.
And I'm like, but that process is what it is to become an adult, to get out of like me, my. That's no way to exist either when it's always just about you. So I think
it could be. People can be, I've seen other people do, although I feel like everybody at one point at least gets an animal.
Yeah, animals are, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think
it's good to care for something else.
That's what I mean. To get out of you, there's comes an age where you're just like, I can't do just me all the time. I feel like it's
kind of isolating. It can be sad and lonely.
Yeah.
Even having a partner, someone in your life, whether it's like a friend that you, like a roommate, or whether it's like a husband or a wife or whatever. I think having someone else that kind of, not that you're beholden to, but that is concerned about you, that you have to check in on, someone else
to care.
or something else you have to think about.
I think so. I think it's very maturing, because I got my first dog. That dog just transformed me from being a self-centered, and I'm lack of words, not selfish, but just self. Always
but selfish
with
isn't
self.
a bad thing.
Not necessarily.
You're just only thinking about yourself because nothing else counted on you.
100%. And then when I got FIFO, it transformed me into a person that was able to care for another being, and then other directed as well. And that was an epiphany for me. And he taught me how to love. That dog made me love, really, for the first time. And then it just opened me up. So I don't know. Dogs are so healing. And I'm watching my friend get this out, and I'm like, yes, finally. I'm so stoked that you rescued this dog. Like, this dog's going to rescue you. That's the irony.
Totally. And they're so excited to see you.
It's
like,
the best.
I love Roxy because she's not a morning dog, which is why I love her, because I'm also not a morning person. But today I got up early for me. I got up at 8. I set my alarm for you because I love you.
Oh, thank you.
And so at like 8:15, 8:30, I'm like coming out of my bedroom, showered, and I'm going to get her out of her crate because she sleeps in her crate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good morning, Roxy, as I walk up. no tail thump. Usually you hear tail thump right away. And she's like curled up like a little baby. And she looks and she yawns at me and she puts her head back in. She's like, no, Mom. What the fuck is this? No.
You trained her well to sleep in.
Oh, she sleeps. One time Sean and I accidentally, I think we just needed it because we've been working a lot. We slept for like 12 hours one night. We were like,
oh, that's amazing.
And she was totally zonked. Oh. When I came out to wake her up, because I was like, oh my God, the dog, did she like whine? I wonder if she like shit in her crate. No. She's like, oh, it's Saturday.
Yeah. That's a good age when they get to, when they're out of like the puppy zone and they're more into like an adult dog.
She's still puppy-ish, but she sleeps. Yeah. She always sleeps full through the night.
Well, see, now you got me thinking of, what if I just lived a self life? What does that, what that even look like? Because I really just, like, I did have a hankering for kids at 35. It's like a switch flipped. And I was like, must make baby now, must make baby. Like, it was beyond my control. But what if that switch never went off? Like, I guess that's what happens.
I've never had that switch go off.
You never had that? Yeah. So then you just get to sleep in and stuff. Tell me what that feels like.
I mean, I don't know. It's funny because I always thought that it would switch.
Yeah.
Because Sean and I had always talked like, I don't think we want kids. And I don't think so. And both, my mom and his dad were like, are you sure? Please. And I was like, you can raise them.
Yeah.
And then it just never happened. And I've always just enjoyed my time with Sean and never felt like it was.
Yeah.
I get why people want kids. I just don't have that.
You don't have the hankering. So,
and it's such a privilege. Like, I'm not going to do it just to do it, because it's like, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a decision, man.
Yeah.
It's a real
I know people don't
decision.
always go into it that way, and that's fine too, but
it's not fine. You need to think about it.
Well, it's a big commit. Like, even the dog is a big commitment.
Yeah. Dog is a 15-year commitment.
It's a lot.
And they break your heart when they pass.
I don't even want to think about it.
But the child, that is a lifetime of worrying and whatever. But this is a good question to ask you. I've had a lot of people writing in who don't have children yet, or maybe never want to have them. And they're like, my relatives are always asking me, what's a great way to basically politely say, fuck off? So how should you address this?
I mean, I'm kind of sarcastic. I'll give you a couple options because I've been doing it. I mean, I'm 38 and Sean and I have been together since I was 24. So I've been doing it for a long time. God. So I used to try to make excuses and they'd be like, I don't know, not yet, because it was early on. And so I'd be like, I don't know what I want. And then I got kind of frustrated. I'm pretty stubborn also. My mom's like, I knew if I pressed, there was no chance. Like, I was going to push you into the other way because that's how I am. But at this point, I mean, I always say, that's a great decision for people to make. It's just not one we're going to make.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I say it. Or like, and with my family, I'm sarcastic. And so I'll say, oh, do you want to raise a kid? I'll totally have a kid if you want to raise it, because I'm not up for that, because nobody wants to do that. Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, they don't mean that. They're sure easy for you to say. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. So I always just say, like, good for others, not for us.
Yeah. Good for others, but not for us. And then do you find people try to convince you?
Oh, 100%. Misery loves company. I have friends that are like in it, like babies. Like, almost all my friends have kids around your kid's age or a little younger.
Yeah.
And they're like, come on. I'm like,
no, I would say qualitatively your life is much better than mine. I mean, you wake up when you want. You just leave the house. Like, just today, this morning, just to wake up and get ready for the show, my little one was in my bed, and he wakes up and he wants me to stay in the bed, and then and then I try to get my makeup on and he's still bothering me. It's like, it's a whole deal. Do I love them? Absolutely. I'm so thankful and grateful we did it. But the day-to-dayness of it is really fucking exhausting.
Of course,
and grinding.
But then you'll have the cool thing that you'll have that we won't have is that when you're older, you'll get to see them grow and meet women you like or don't like, or guys you'd like or don't like, and like, you know what I mean. You'll get to have the process and you watch them become humans, and I think that's really cool. And then
I want grandkids.
Yeah, and then have like big dinners with your family. That's cool,
I know. But then,
But it's a lot. And I feel like it's a big decision.
It's a big decision.
That not everybody considers.
I know.
And nobody talks about the hard stuff either. That's what I hate about people. They always pretend like even with dogs, when I called my girlfriend Kim and I was like, dude, like having a dog, she's like, oh, I know. When we first got Lady, their first dog, she's like, Ben and I were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I was like, why didn't you say anything? She's like, I felt like a bad person.
That's what it is.
And there's that judgment around like, because it's hard, it's like not okay to say it's hard because it's another being. I don't know.
Yeah, you're seen as not loving the gig.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you're not on board with it 24/7, like
Which is so fucked.
it's fucked.
Because you can have two emotions running at the same time. I can
know.
have joy and pain simultaneously.
Well, and anything worth doing has both, right?
Yeah.
Like even comedy. I know from the outside it looks like a glamorous
a lot of
profession, but
fucking work.
it's a lot of bullshit. So I don't love being a comedian all the time. You don't love anything all the time.
No.
It's silly. I mean,
No.
you love your children. I'm saying unconditionally, but you don't enjoy the experience.
Well, there's
of them.
moments of like, what?
God.
You know, and that's life. And people need to talk more about that stuff. I feel like that's like more honest.
No. I wonder, that's funny. Yeah. And I'm guessing too, because like motherhood has always been idealized, especially in the 1950s. Like you stay home and you take care of kids, dude. Like what could be greater? Like, oh my God, those poor women had no options.
I know. It's interesting talking. Both Sean and I's grandmas have passed away now, but both of our grandmas were pretty like spitfirey, like feisty for their time type of women. And both of them at different times had told us like, if I knew I had other options, what I would have done. You know, like, I don't know if it was Sean's grandma or my grandma had said like the options for her for jobs were like typist, secretary, teacher, and nurse. I think that was it.
Yeah.
And maybe one other. And my grandma went up to Seattle to like, she was a typist. Like she was learning how to be a typist, I think. Anyway, but they were talking about like, those were the options.
It's wild.
And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm 38. So I'm now older. We're moving into this older generation. But I growing up never felt like, I'm like, sky's the limit, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
how quickly that shifted. And
So
how-
fast.
And my grandma stayed home with her 3 kids. And I mean, as my friends have started to have kids, I always tell my mom, I'm like, I don't know how you did it. And she's like, you just do.
Well, and I also think doing it younger.
And she didn't have a nanny or anything either.
No, but I mean, if
Yeah.
I were 10 years, if I had my kids when I was supposed to biologically, then yeah, okay, 3 kids, cleaning the house, cooking for everybody 3 meals a day, doing laundry. It's fucking
constant.
exhausting,
It's
dude.
a lot. It's a full job.
But if you're 20s, then yeah, you fucking.
I got the
it still
energy, I
sucks,
guess. But still sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, but your grandma never got it. You don't get a mental break.
No, she had her first, my dad, she had at like 20
Jeez,
or 19 or something. Yeah.
You're a baby.
I can't even imagine. But it is a full-time job. I think the thing that would bother me the most is the feeding, the amount of food I'd have to create and like plan and like deal.
Oh, that's
how do
that's
you
your biggest one.
I don't, laundry doesn't bother me.
That's what Postmates is for, dude. Like,
true.
When
But
I'm
before, pre, do you know what I mean? Like,
fuck. Well, that's why like I'm not such a Nazi about nutrition all the time. Like,
I
dude,
appreciate that about you. Like when we were hanging out and your groceries got delivered, it was like Lunchable, and I was like, damn straight. Sometimes you're just like, fucking peel it open,
just
eat it yourself.
open it, God. Well, because like I grew up eating the worst possible diet because I was raised by like a single dad. I literally ate out of cans or microwavable shit. So like, great. So on the weekends when I'm alone with my kids, guess what? We're fucking ordering pizza.
Yeah.
We're
Well, it's
ordering
easier.
whatever. I don't care. And then on the weekdays when the nanny comes, she'll cook for you. You'll get your vegetables then. You know what I do? I put smoothies.
Oh yeah.
They think they're getting something good, and you just throw some spinach in
always.
there.
They never
That's
know.
enough.
I do that for myself.
Yeah, dog.
Sneak myself, like trick myself into getting my vegetables.
Yeah. Postmates or you cook enough that you save it in a Tupperware
Yeah.
for the next round of feedings.
That
But
makes
it
sense.
is relentless.
That's the thing. They're
feedings,
always, and then it makes sense now. And then I'm always like, wow, I was such an asshole. Cause I'd be like, I don't want this, Mom. Like, I want to punch little me in the face. Mom made a lot of fucking food for you and you should have just shut up and ate it.
Well, there's a lot of moms listening to this that are like, that's what I do. Guess what? You're not going to eat this, then you're not fucking eating.
That's why Mom would say, like, eat it if you're hungry. This is what's for dinner.
This is what it is.
You don't like it? Figure something else out. I don't know.
You know what's so funny? My kids think everything is spicy. They always say, this is too spicy. And you're like,
I remember
damn,
Julian did
dude.
when we were out to lunch. It was like a sandwich, like with pesto. Spicy.
So spicy.
So spicy. He was like,
they hate flavor.
so he ate French fries. You were
Yeah.
like, well, there you go. It's
Yeah.
too spicy. Hamburger's too spicy. Your sandwich was too spicy.
They're so funny. They eat like shit. Like
Yeah.
they don't want to eat nothing, dude. Like
No.
you can cook for kids like your gourmet stuff.
They don't want it.
They
Their
don't
taste buds are
fucking
like
want
too,
it.
Oh, they're like, I don't know. It's like their taste buds are too fresh and new But everything that has flavor for us, like blue cheese, they'd be like,
Oh, it's disgusting. I mean, I grew up eating pasta, hot dogs, canned stuff, whatever. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you can try to cook
mac and cheese, man. That was my favorite.
all day. I make that shit every day.
I would never put any milk in it, too much
Fuck
milk.
no.
Because I want it to be like so
Extra
cheesy.
Me too.
I'd be like, maybe a little butter.
That's all.
That'll make it better.
That's how I do it. A ton of butter and then just
Same.
the orange. Fuck your milk.
I knew we were good friends for a reason.
Yeah, I know. Now you want to get real trashy, real white trash. Take a scoop of cream cheese.
Oh, even better.
Even better,
Oh,
dude. That's the jam.
That is
Yeah,
the
and I'll
jam.
feed them like turkey dogs instead
Yeah,
of just
that's
like
fine.
hot dog.
Lips and assholes.
Lips and assholes. I feel like it's good for you to build that resilience, that tolerance.
I think a little bit.
I
I
ain't
think
gonna
it's
eat
good.
fucking broccoli and shit.
No, I mean, my mom would have to cover those in like Velveeta cheese for me to
Yeah.
handle it.
Look, there's
You're
an
like-
age. Sometimes and some days they're down to eat a piece of broccoli, and that's when you shove it down their throat.
Yep.
But I think this idea, like, you got to eat the rainbow at every meal, like, dude, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Do you want to eat salads every day?
No, you don't. And that's the thing, like intuitive eating. I think that's, as an eating disorder specialist, that
tell
kind of
me
stuff
about that.
bothers me with kids, like forcing them to finish,
Ooh.
forcing them to eat certain foods. And yes, children should try new things. Like I do love Daniel the Tiger. If you have little kids, Daniel the Tiger is a great cartoon.
Yes.
I don't know. I think maybe Julian would enjoy it. It's a little, Ellis is too old for it, I think. But they have little songs. And my cousin has her daughter, Ellis.
Oh,
I know.
Great. Don't tell
Oh,
Tom.
sorry.
He'll
It's
be
a cute
so
name. I love
upset.
the name for both.
Don't even say that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I take it back. But anyways, her daughter loves Daniel the Tiger. And she had her watch this one episode before Christmas time that was like, try new things. I gotta try new kind of like just take one bite, see what you think kind of thing. It was a
Yeah.
little ditty. And they had cheesecake of all things. Like, who doesn't want cheesecake? Everybody fucking loves
know.
cheesecake. But she didn't want to try it because she didn't know what it was, right? And my cousin Amanda, she's like, well, what do you say, Alice? It's something new. And she was like, I try new things. I'm gonna try new things. I'll take a bite and see if I like it. Don't have to eat anymore, but take a bite, see if you like it.
And did she like it?
No. She was like, I don't want it anymore. But then that's okay. You tried it. You don't like it. And I think forcing children
Ay.
is, again, like we're starting them from a young age to not trust their body. Like if
Yeah.
they're full and they don't want anymore.
I let it go.
Yeah. I mean, try again. Be like, are you really full? I think it's even okay to be like, do you check in? Is your tummy full? Because kids are so intuitive.
Yeah.
They like, when they're hungry, they're going to eat.
That's true. And that's another thing to remember as a parent. Some days they're not going to want to eat a lot.
No.
And that's okay. Some days you don't want to eat a lot. So don't freak out. Like, cause then they might go through a growth spurt in like a day or two and they'll eat like horses and
My
they'll
dog's
make
even
up.
that way. Some days
Yeah.
I'll be like, is she okay? She's sick. She only ate like half her kibble.
Yeah.
And then the next day she's like scarfing things down. So kids are the same, I feel like, and put things in Ziplocs, cover it up. They might want it later.
Oh yeah.
But forcing, I feel like, gets us away from a very young age from intuitive eating, which is
yeah.
really important.
Well, the clean plate stuff.
Oh yeah, the
that,
Clean Plate Club.
That makes me bonkers. Like my husband and my parents thankfully didn't give a shit about what I ate.
That was the neglect part. I'm like, I can't really like laugh along my.
But the good part is I never grew up with the hang up of leaving food behind. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to save every fucking scrap of food. It makes me nutty when I see like people
don't even like
saving.
leftovers that
I don't
much, so-
like it. Especially restaurant food. First of all, you know how fucking old that shit is once it's been delivered to you.
And it never
Don't
reheats
save it.
properly.
So my husband is, I've told over the years, I've been like, Tommy, what if you left half the food on the plate? So what? So what?
Yeah.
And then to go like, oh yeah, so what?
Oh, he was raised at the Clean Plate Club.
Uh-huh.
Which makes it so he's not intuitive, so he probably overeats without realizing.
You don't even know. I know.
That stuff always bothers me because I think that's kind of like why our whole society like has such a hang up on food and diet culture and blah 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 blah.
Why is that? You think it's just like that upbringing of like you gotta eat it all?
Yeah, I think it's that mom knows best or dad knows best. You don't know your own body.
Yeah.
Getting away from that, I think, is really important. Yeah, because our kids are intuitive just by nature.
I know.
Our bodies tell us when they're hungry and when they're full.
I know, and everybody, I know. Let them be. I think we got to leave them the fuck alone a little bit. Well, Katie Morton, guys, get her books. Are You Okay? And Traumatized is the latest one. Listen to her podcast, Ask Katie Anything, and follow her on TikTok. Her talks are so helpful.
Oh, you like my talks?
hello, I don't republish them because you're too sane. You're not in my lane, so I try.
It's fair.
I try
We
not
live
to.
Parallel lanes.
I try not to like it too much.
Or it'll mess up your feed.
I know.
Then you're only going to get therapist shit.
Oh,
Then what
no.
will I go to watch? Be like, people are doing what? And I'm like, people have gotten wow.
I know. You know what's so exciting is there's a whole lane of people with herpes that are telling
I
their
saw.
stories. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. That's bull. I mean, that
I have
is
a wild
brazen.
herpes story from. It's like not mine. It's a friend's story.
Sure, go ahead.
Without giving too many details, because she hasn't like approved this or anything, and I'm not friends with her anymore. But sorry,
fuck her.
nose itching. Anyway, her first time having sex.
No.
Yep. It was horrible. And she was on her period.
No.
Too, and he like pressured her. Horrible.
Jerk.
Asshole.
And to be clear, like I don't do everybody fucking has. What do you think cold sores are? Those are herpes, bitch.
Yep.
So it's really just like you had the misfortune of getting it on your genitals, which from what I understand is very fucking painful when you have an outbreak.
Oh, really? I don't, yeah.
That's what my friends that have had genital herpes are like, it hurts so much, but you can take Valtrex to suppress the virus. So if
Does that suppress your immune system too?
I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor, but
me neither.
I know that I have friends that take that just to regulate so that they don't have outbreaks as frequently or what. I don't know, dude.
That's
your
fair.
fucking
Whatever. And I'm
doctor.
sure she does something like that too. I know she was on something because she immediately went to the doctor and was like, what the fuck? But we were like 20.
That's the thing. That's what when you catch it is in your youth. So let me tell you, I'll tell you my herpes story. There was this cute fucking boy in my college.
It's always a cute fucking boy.
He was so hot. So hot. And he was coming after me. Use protection. And I had the great fortune of a girl who wasn't even my friend, but was an acquaintance of mine come up to me and go, do not date him. He gave me herpes.
Thank God.
And what a fucking homie for a girl just to be like, hey, dude. And I think women do that.
Yeah. Tell somebody.
She saved my ass from getting
Right. From, yeah. You're like, he is hot.
And that's the time when people were more embarrassed about having genital herpes,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, everything's different now. Even like AIDS and HIV is non-transmittable. If you like take your medicine, it's non-detectable, non-transmittable. Amazing.
And in my lifetime to be able to see that is just,
yeah.
Who thought?
I know.
And now there's some treatment for cancer. They're saying that stops the cancer cells from
breast cancer. It was like total. There's been a couple of different medical breakthroughs.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Who would have thought? I remember growing up, like getting a cancer diagnosis was like a death sentence. Do you remember when people's parents, and I'd be like, oh, it was horrible. And now you're like, well, everybody's got cancer. I mean, there's still some that need, like, I don't know if, like, is it lymphoma? They haven't.
Yeah. My mom
cracked the
died
code?
of that. She died. She had
Oh, I didn't know.
lymphoma. Yeah, non-Hodgkin's.
Oh.
I know. That one's a toughie.
Yeah.
That's why, like, you just die at 60, like the Golden Girls. That's why they look like that. They were on fucking.
They were riding off into the sunset.
already at 50. They're like, ah.
That's so crazy.
I know.
Having them in moo-moos and.
I know. Well, Katie Morton, always a pleasure. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Love you too. Thanks for having me.
Love you. All right, moms. Thank you. Subscribe to the show. And until next time, stay cool, moms. Meow. Hi, Mommy. Thank you for watching that episode. Did you like what you see? I hope you did. So why don't you subscribe? Just click the subscribe button and, hit the notification bell so you can get notified. And also, why don't you watch another video? Watch one of these. You know what I'm saying? Like right here, down there, whatever. There's so much stuff, bro. I make these all the time for you to watch. That's why I'm here. I love you.